So what I want to start talking about is the role that life design plays in the kind of career and professional development work that we do at Johns Hopkins University. You may have heard of life design if you have been involved with us in the past or work with any of our life design educators. You've certainly seen that there has been a strong emphasis on human-centered design as a lens through which we look at the wicked problem of designing our lives. As anybody in this room knows, our lives are not these kind of perfectly linear trajectories, right? There are ups and downs, there are challenges, there are changes of course that we encounter all along the way. And one of our goals in life design is to prepare students at Johns Hopkins University for the inevitability of a non-linear life path. And even more than that, to give them the tools they need in order to make good choices among many possible life paths that they have in front of them. So while traditional career counseling might focus on like planning for that one career that you're going to do for the rest of your life and lining up tools all along the way or steps all along the way, what we really want to be doing is giving students the opportunity and the tools that they need to pivot and design their way forward so that they're living their lives in a really purposeful way. We're not trying to limit their choices, we're trying to broaden them. Employers play an essential role in that paradigm because by interacting with you, by learning about your companies, by learning about your organizations, by learning about the roles that you're hiring for and the skills and the kinds of experiences that you offer to your current and future employees, they are learning about possible future lives for themselves. So we see you as an essential partner in this life design process. Something that is really crucial to the way that we structure this, this kind of decision-making framework that we put out in front of them is what we call a notion of coherency. And there are two particular views or perspectives that we ask students to reflect on in starting to think about what it is that they want to do with their lives. Again, this isn't a matter of the one thing I want to do with my life, but what are some of the multiple ideas that I have for how I might want to pursue my future careers. Coherency requires us to have them think about two different views. Life views, which are value-based. So that's kind of my perspective on the world, what's important to me, what are the relationships that are important to me, what's the kind of life I want to live, hobbies, things like that. And then work view. What constitutes good work? This is a values-driven consideration. What is valuable to me? And we ask them to really start thinking about that in quadrant terms. Like, does it have to do, am I looking for high-paying jobs? Am I looking for something that's fulfilling? Am I looking for something that's growth-oriented, that's going to challenge me, to develop me? Or am I looking for an experience, right? And I think you can imagine how your organizations kind of present themselves or brand themselves in different ways within those different categories, right? Emphasizing maybe one or two over the others. We're asking students to do something similar, to really reflect on what's important to them with regards to their identity and their values, and connect that with the kind of work that they want to do moving forward. The design thinking process comes into this because the design thinking process, for all you designers out there, is looping and iterative, which means that we really want to emphasize making our way through the process intentionally, but being understanding and cognizant of the fact that sometimes we need to pop back to earlier stages. So in the empathize stage, we're really thinking about what are our values, what's important to us, what does it mean to do meaningful work for us. In the define stage, we're asking students to start thinking about different life paths that they might be interested in and giving them names, giving them titles, almost like thinking of themselves in a movie. In the ideate stage, we're asking them to really come up with ideas for what companies would you want to work at? What organizations would you want to belong to? What trade organizations? What kind of schools do you need to go through? Learning do you need to do in the future? And we ask them to generate all kinds of possible ideas for how they might live out these lives that they're imagining for themselves. In the prototype phase, that is where the rubber really hits the road in terms of our interaction with employers, not just because a prototype represents something that you take out into the world and test, like an internship, right? Or like an actual job, but also because employers can give students feedback, whether it's through hiring them or not hiring them, or just talking to them about how they've done in an interview process, can give them feedback on the ideas and the presentation of their life story that they've brought to these organizations. So we see you as a really ideal feedback loop partner for us, not just in sort of hiring our students, which we hope you do, but also in teaching them and being an essential part of the feedback loop of the design thinking process. So our goal is to get students to go through this empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test process multiple times in their 4 years at Hopkins. And employers represent an important step in that process each year that students are there. So from our perspective, the way that you talk to and interact with our freshmen is just as important as whether you're hiring one of our seniors. So let's take a look then at where the Future Fest falls within this particular design thinking process. The Future Fest was launched in fall 2020 as a better way to do career fairs. Because one of the things, as you may have just heard from what I was talking about, is that from our perspective, it's not just about students going in and jobs coming out, but students discovering things along the way. And so what we did in 2020 was we created a multi-stage, multi-day event that allowed employers to interact with students in multiple different environments in a virtual space. So we had the traditional trade show floor, kind of virtual career fair set up on Brazen that you might have been a part of. But we also had networking breakout rooms that were panels run by life design educators. We had evening events that included trainings, that included speakers, invited speakers like Chef Jose Andres and Dr. Lena Wen from CNN. We also had events that were sort of curated networking events, right? Sort of really intentionally partnering alumni who work at many of your companies directly with students. So in this version of a career fair, so in this Future Fest version, it's not just the recruiter that we're trying to leverage to teach students and to help them learn about opportunities, but really anybody at your organization who's willing to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes or 3 hours talking with and interacting with our students and helping them to learn what's going on. There are opportunities, as we'll talk about, to connect students directly to job opportunities that you have. That's still a part of what we're doing. But we really wanted to blow up this notion of a career fair as being a transactional connection between student in and job out, and instead provide it as a kind of a looping framework that allows students to explore and learn from their freshman year through their senior year. Additionally, as many of you probably know, we do partner with our graduate school cohorts and schools within the Hopkins system to recruit PhD, MBA, and master's degree students from the School of Engineering, Carey Business School, SICE, and the School of Nursing. So it's not just undergraduates. The Life Design Lab is primarily focused on undergraduates, but we are bringing in a really diverse pool of potential applicants and potential talent for you to connect with. Again, not just people who can fill your roles right now, but people who can fill and understand your mission and your visions as organizations moving forward. So let's take a look at what the numbers exactly revealed for us last year at Future Fest. We had a great experience last year. It was our first time out of the gate in the middle of a pandemic, and we invented this thing from scratch. And we felt great about the outcome. We had 710 students that were involved. As you can see, the bulk of them were undergraduates, but we also had master's and PhD students who came. One important number for us, the one that I really like to focus on, is the notion of conversations. 2,377 conversations. You can think of each of those conversations as opening a potential door, both for the employer, the alum, or for the student, or for our campus partner. There were 268 recruiters and company representatives there last year, and over 100 of them were alumni. So many of our organizations, companies, and employers that we partnered with chose to bring their alums, which is something that's pretty common both when we do the in-person career fair and when we've started up this newer version of Future Fest. The big difference as we're moving into Future Fest 2021 and remaining virtual is that it's way easier and way more time efficient for you to pull your alumni who are part of your organizations really intentionally in to meet with students, whether it's on the trade show floor or in one of the networking breakout rooms that we'll talk about very soon. We're really proud of the fact that a lot of the events that we ran were designed to be infused with the life design framework. And so keeping that sort of notion of growth and development as design thinking as forefront at a number of our events meant that it wasn't just a transactional experience. And one of the things that we saw was that there was really a strong distribution between students coming to the trade show floor and students being involved in the networking breakout rooms. So as we're moving into Future Fest 2021, we had tons of alums in those breakout rooms. We really are hoping that employers will see the value of connecting with students, not only in that little booth on Brazen, but also in these more interactive networking spaces. So let's take a look at the actual structure itself. The technology that we're leveraging this year is really straightforward. Everything is going to run through Brazen. The Brazen platform allows you to set up a virtual booth. It has timed conversations that are about 10 minutes long. They can be chat or video based. And that's what the trade show floor looks like. We're going to be using Zoom to create the more interactive spaces, but every single link, whether it's to a Zoom networking breakout room in one of the dance floors, or whether it's one of the evening main stage events, or whether it's one of our competitions, all of those links are going to go through Brazen, all right? So we're gonna have a single platform to drive everybody to their engagement over this 4-day period. So let's take a look at the different pieces of this particular, of Future Fest. We have 4 stages that we really focus on, as I mentioned before. The main stage, which is these kind of larger presentations. Last year we had Chef Jose Andres. We had Factuality, which is a training in structural inequality. It's very interactive. It's a gamified version. We have the networking. We have the networking dance floor, which is more of an interactive program that's driven by life design educators. We have the trade show floor, which is that sort of more traditional career fair. And then we have a series of competitions. Let's take a look at what each of these means in terms of how they're scheduled out. So what you can expect, just kind of spread out over the dates, is that the first 2 days, September 30th and October 1st, are really going to be sort of like the pregame for this exciting music festival, right? Those are workshops that are driven by alumni, employers, and educators, and we call them Soundcheck. They're prepping students for this festival experience that they're gonna have the next week. Last year, we were able to partner with a couple of employers who did incredible jobs presenting things like, what's it like to be in my, in my industry? Talking about particular ways to create good resumes for specific industries. Talking about networking within particular kinds of companies. And so this is sort of an early way to get students warmed up to what they're going to be doing. The main Future Festival takes place Monday through Thursday from October 4th to 7th and runs all day long. again, from an employer perspective, what's really great is that if you're going to a live career fair, you are wiped at the end of the day, right? If when you attend Future Fest, you're able to kind of stagger your interaction with students and spread it across the whole week. So last year we had several employers who did an incredible job of really picking and choosing events that were specific to the kinds of recruiting that they were doing and spending time in those events connecting with students in a really intentional way, which means that they were seeing talent not just in that one-off 10-minute sort of face-to-face or typed interview, but also saw them at work in workshops, saw them in lectures and were able to, or lectures or presentations, and were able to chat with them there. We're able to meet with them in networking breakout rooms alongside other students. So they got to see these candidates in multiple different spaces and really learn more about who they were. All right, so for the Soundcheck workshops, there are a lot of different ways that you can structure those. If you're interested in doing one, we would love to have you there. They're just 50 minutes long. They run all day on Thursday and Friday. We would just slot you in a time that you're interested in running it. We can help you set the presentation up yourself, or you can do it. The main theme, or you can structure it on your own. The main theme behind it, though, is we don't want it to just be sort of an advertisement for your organization, but rather an introduction to the field that your organization is, or some particular aspect of your industry. So it could be, you know, how can employers support diverse workforces, strategies for talking to recruiters, so what we're looking for as a recruiter, finding a mentor, elevator pitches, industry culture, any of those kinds of things, right? But taking your particular corporate spin or your particular organizational spin on one of these topics is something we want to put the ball in your court and give you an opportunity to teach our students new skills and enhance your brand at the same time. The main stage is an opportunity for you and for people in your organization to interact with our students and with our culture our culture at Johns Hopkins in a very different way, and either learn something yourself or connect directly with students in a different environment. As we move forward, we look forward to the main stage being a live event. This particular year, due to space restrictions on campus, we're not sure that we're going to be able to make the main stage event a live event. Is going to be virtual, and that's what we're planning for. Similar to last year, we're going to have one night that's going to be kind of a series of TED Talks with some interactive conversations going on. We're going to have another night that's going to be focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's going to be a facilitated workshop. Anybody from your organization is invited to join. All right, if you're joining Future Fest, anybody you want to bring along can join. We're going to have an evening that's focused on intentional mentorship. And then we're going to have another evening that's a keynote speaker. And we're lining up that keynote speaker as we speak. Last year, it was a conversation with Chef Jose Andres. The trade show floor, as I've mentioned before, is going to have 4 days. Day one is going to be focused on STEM employers only. That can be, I am a not STEM employer, but I have STEM, openings that I'm hiring for. Or it could be that your corporate mission or your organizational mission is really a STEM focused mission. Day two is all employers. It says non-STEM, but really what that just means is all employers. The focus of these first 2 days is really on networking and brand building. So we're asking that you take the freshman who's coming in and who has no idea what they're talking about. We want you to spend time with them the same way that you're spending time with a really, great candidate, because the value that you're putting into that interaction with that freshman is building up a brand and a long-term relationship with Hopkins students that's going to pay dividends in the future. That said, as you can see on Thursday, we've created an opportunity, an optional opportunity, that any employer who has a booth on Monday and Tuesday can have a targeted hiring day that's either looking to hire for full-time positions or for internships for the subsequent summer. If you have 2 positions to post of any sort that you can hire a Johns Hopkins student, we would love for you to have a booth on Brazen on Thursday. That's no additional cost on the sort of like entry ticket here. All right, so if you partake in Monday and Tuesday, we will help you set up that targeted hiring event booth on Thursday. On Wednesday, we're going to have a reverse career fair in which student organizations are going to show off their what they've got. They're going to show off their membership, what they do, their technical and artistic projects. One thing that we get a lot from employers is a request to connect with student organizations. This is your opportunity as an employer to shop for student organizations and to make that connection. We are going to have a competitive aspect to this, that student organizations are going to receive prizes based on the quality of the booth that they've set up. Again, the Wednesday event is going to run through the Brazen platform. Each day, the trade show floor is going to happen from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we'll have some more sort of directions for you on how to best maximize that time in the future from lessons we've learned. Next, the networking dance floor, as I mentioned before, is driven by life design educators and campus partners. It's really meant to be places where you can have mini panels or mini lectures that are followed by interactive round robin networking opportunities. We like to highlight alumni and employer voices, and we're glad to sort of proactively incorporate you into these. But we have a number of different sort of themes that emerged last year, including navigating work while Black, women in technology, finance, consulting, student athletes, international students, and so on, right? So we kind of create these affinity group, life design educator driven networking opportunities that provided a huge amount of engagement last year. Lots of opportunities to meet students, lots of opportunities to spend additional time getting to know the talent from Johns Hopkins University. So we'd love to partner with you for that. Last but not least, we are creating competitions. Last year we had 1. This year we're hoping to have 3. The Student Organization Showcase is 1 competition. We're also partnering with Cary Business School to offer a case competition. For these, we are happy to supply resume books from the competitors as well as the winners. And we are really happy to partner with you in whatever way you might be interested in joining us, either to offer your own competition if you have a sense of it, or to judge a competition that we are looking to hold. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be you, but anybody from your organization who's interested in giving back to the Hopkins community or getting closer with the Hopkins community is welcome to join one of these, and they can reach out to me. So as you can see, once we end up structuring Future Fest, this is how it lays out. It's really structured across these 4 days with those 2 Soundcheck events the week before. And it's staggered throughout the day. So from an employer perspective, it might be that if you're a STEM employer, you come on Monday, you have your booth, you come to the DEI workshop on Tuesday, and then you're part of a networking event on Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, right? Just because we have it spread out over 4 days does not mean that you're kind of like gung-ho for 4 straight days. And that's one of the major advantages of this virtual framework, that you can design your interaction with students and student organizations throughout the 4 days. Finally, the cost to this is rather nominal, but it is important from our perspective to make sure that all employers are buying in to the process. We have a number of different ways that you can do that. Again, this isn't meant to be an especially onerous cost. It's more meant to make sure that you have skin in the game, and then also to buy particular products that we can connect to your brand. So one of the things that we are doing, and we haven't set the deadline for this yet, but we're going to be giving out swag bags to all students. Since we're not in person, we're going to be developing a way for one of the exciting parts of an in-person career fair is like giving away branded items, whether it's like pens or little squishy balls or, figurines or whatever it might be. We're going to provide an opportunity for employers to do that work. And we're going to do it through a take-home tote that includes branding opportunities for all employers by putting their logos on the back. So that's something that we're working into, just trying to rebuild that exciting part. There are a few small costs that we have, including, speaker fees, prize money, and giveaways that are built into this cost structure. But we are happy to talk with you about which of these categories you fall into. We also welcome sponsors. Last year we did have one sponsor. We had started kind of on the later side, so we are always looking for organizations that are interested in putting their brand information front and center on the Future Fest. The pricing for that information you can either do it as a stage sponsor, so like I'm sponsoring the whole trade show, the Patrick Brew trade show, or you can put it as a stage sponsor. So like, the Alianaris Nunez main stage or whatever it might be. And again, you would work with our marketing and communication specialist to determine the level of branding that you want us to put out there in association with that sponsorship. All right, that's all I've got for you on that particular side of things. So